We're here to look at two of the deadliest dictators to ever walk the face of the planet, Saddam Hussein and his Republican Guard versus Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge.
Let's just start off with Saddam. He was known as the Butcher of Baghdad. This guy, he tortured, he maimed, he used chemical weapons. Whatever it took to quell rebellions, that's what Saddam Hussein would do. When you look at Pol Pot, this guy used a small communist guerrilla force called the Khmer Rouge, and they go on and take out the government in Cambodia, killing millions of people.
We've got an established army versus a guerrilla group, but very similar payloads as far as weapons are concerned. I think it's going to be a close fight.
With regards to the diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders, these guys are psychopaths, which means there is no remorse. That's pretty explosive.
These are sadistic bastards. This kind of brutality, off the scale.
Saddam Hussein, Iraqi tyrant whose Republican Guard slaughtered not only his enemies, but his own people, versus Pol Pot, the Cambodian dictator whose Khmer Rouge guerrillas committed genocide on a quarter of the country's population. It's dictator versus dictator, as the late 20th century's most genocidal madmen turn their tools of oppression on each other. Who is deadliest? To find out, the history of war and modern science collide as former Navy SEAL Richard Mac Makowitz dives deep into the tactics of the warriors behind the weapons. Biomedical engineer Jeff D. Malin applies 21st century technology to unlock new data on arsenals of the past. And ER physician Armand Dorian dissects the trauma and reveals the physical and psychological traits that shaped these legends of war. This groundbreaking data will be paired with historical research and entered into an all-new digital combat engine. Two legendary combatants will be resurrected. History will be rewritten. But only one will be crowned Deadliest Warrior. Welcome to the Fight Club, where our experts will uncover new historical insights to determine who is deadliest. Saddam Hussein and his Iraqi Republican Guard, who crushed any political opposition from 1979 to 2003. Or Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge guerrillas, who toppled the Cambodian government in 1975.
I want to set the tone right off the bat. We are not celebrating these guys. Yeah. But by actually seeing what these guys have done and recognizing the way they did it, it may prevent future massacres, future genocides.
To me, it's the science of violence. You have to understand the chaos of violence in order to fight back against these guys.
You're talking about evil. If we don't see it and call it for what it is, then we'll never get off our butts and do anything about evil when we do see it.
Completely agreed, Mac. We have to investigate this.
Let me give you the tale of the tape, okay, about these two warriors and their military. Saddam Hussein, 6'2", 215 pounds, big guy. Pol Pot, 5'9", 194 pounds. The Khmer Rouge, average age 16. Republican Guard, average age 25. That age difference is very, very important. A 16-year-old with this type of invincibility is unfathomable.
When you're talking about motivation, Doc, Saddam Hussein had this vision in his head. He's going to recreate the Babylonian Empire with him at the head. Versus Pol Pot. He has a beautiful vision once he gets in power. I want to eradicate the past and create a past of my own liking. This is his plan. I'm going to kill off anyone who knows anything about the past. Hey, you've read a book? You're dead. You're an intellectual? You're dead. You wear glasses? You're dead. That's this guy in a nutshell.
Okay, so let's move on to the weapons now. And for the first time on Deadliest Warrior, we're going to use multiple weapons on a single test to see how it plays out in an urban combat environment. We're going to initiate this assault with grenades, move on to light machine guns, and then take control of a building with handguns.
I think what we have here is an opportunity to truly confront evil by exploring what did they do, what kind of tools did they use, and how did they convince other human beings to behave this way.
This dictator deathmatch will be determined by the all-new digital combat engine created by Robert Daly, a former Green Beret and designer of more than 30 military-based video games, including the Deadliest Warrior game. The engine will process more than 100 X factors, critical intangibles, assign values based on extensive historical research on each warrior's lives, tactics, and psychological profiles.
The most important X factor for me is the psychological health of these two leaders.
No, absolutely. You have to evaluate these troops because they are all antisocial, because they're being driven so hard. And how they're going to be affected long term is something that I think we also need to take into consideration.
Providing first-hand knowledge of the Butcher of Baghdad's weapons and tactics is Sabah Qadada, a former general in the Iraqi army. After refusing an order to shell an innocent Iraqi village in 1996, Sabah came under investigation by Saddam's Ba'ath Party, who had him arrested for insubordination.
سجنت 9 شهور في السجن، لكن الحزب ما تركني لحالي. بدأ أيضا يدور علي زلات أو أخطاء حتى يستغلها ويقدمني ويسجنني في السجن مرة ثانية أو يوصلني إلى الإعدام.
Sabah eventually escaped all the way to the U.S., where he helped American authorities discover Saddam in 2003.
من داخله شخصية مهزوزة، إنسان فاشل، إنسان فارغ، ينافسه عدمه، أي شخص يشوفه أكثر من عنده معلومات ومعرفة عدمه يحاول يتخلص من عنده.
Wielding the weapons that Saddam Hussein and his Republican Guard took into battle is Calvin Bondley. Having faced combat with insurgents in Iraq, he brings first-hand experience into what makes these warriors so lethal.
The Republican Guard is the military who took over Kuwait in 5 hours. They believe in what they're doing.
Revealing exclusive historical insight into Saddam's regime is Rick Francona, former Air Force officer and CIA agent who served as General Norman Schwarzkopf's advisory expert in the First Gulf War.
At age 20, Saddam Hussein tries to assassinate the then president of Iraq by machine gunning a car as the motorcade goes by. It fails, he's wounded in the leg, and he seeks refuge in Egypt.
The assassination attempt made Saddam a legend in the ranks of the Ba'ath Party. Taking over the country in 1979, he launched an 8-year war against neighboring Iran. During the conflict, he ordered a chemical weapons attack on his own people, ethnic Kurds he considered rebels for aligning with Iran.
It had never been used on a battlefield before, making the Iraqis the only people in the world to have ever used nerve gas on a battlefield.
The perfect match for Saddam Hussein's extreme tactics in putting down rebellions is Pol Pot, whose Khmer Rouge guerrillas were notorious for overthrowing the Cambodian military. Handling the weapons for the Khmer Rouge is Jonathan Kahn. As a former U.S. Army marksman, his in-depth weapons expertise is coupled with a deep knowledge of the guerrilla regime that killed his grandparents.
The Khmer Rouge is a band of guerrilla fighters. Guerrilla tactics will always beat a traditional army.
Sharing his personal experiences at the hands of Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge is Kilon Ong, a Cambodian genocide survivor who watched the Khmer Rouge kill or starve 50 members of his extended family.
Khmer Rouge began with a handful of students, got together, conspired against the government, and then eventually they formed a formidable force.
This formidable force of guerrilla fighters, led by Pol Pot, defeated Cambodian government troops and took over the country in 1975, and then tried to bring their vision of the perfect society into reality.
Pol Pot was trying to create a utopia where everybody was equal. To do that, he has to bring people back to the peasants' level of the guerrilla fighters that started the revolution with him. They would get rid of the upper class, the educated. There were mass graves all over the country. It was enough to call them the killing fields.
We've got a guerrilla group going up against an established military, okay? So to make your data set complete, we've got to run some weapons tests.
From Saddam Hussein's invasions of Iran and Kuwait to Pol Pot's siege on the Cambodian capital of Phnom Penh, both warriors seized cities with urban warfare tactics that combine grenades, light machine guns, and sidearms. The first test will determine how this entire arsenal of weapons performs in a 3-phase attack on an enemy-occupied building. The Republican Guard will initiate their assault with the Iraqi military's RGD-5 grenade. It explodes with 4 ounces of TNT and 350 pieces of shrapnel.
It's Soviet-designed anti-personnel fragmentation grenade. Once you pull the pin out, it takes about 3 to 4 seconds to explode.
The Republican Guard will then move in with the RPK, a light machine gun with a 40-round magazine.
This is a primary weapon for their infantry units. It can be fired standing, moving, crouched, or even in the prone position.
The Republican Guard will finish with a Browning high-power pistol, the premier Iraqi army sidearm.
لكن عندي المسدس مالي الشخصي هدية الرئيس صدام حسين لمن دافع عن وطنه.
He actually carried a Browning high power with an inscription stamped into the slide. It said, "A gift from the President Saddam Hussein."
Okay, well, let's grab these weapons and head out to the range.
The first of 3 phases will assess the damage potential of the grenades against 4 targets.
We've got 1 guard on the inside of the guard post, 3 on the outside. So we'll be able to measure the fragmentation on those foam targets, plus the percussion effects with a 38G shock patch and a 100G shock patch on the chest.
If the blast trips the 38G patch, the target is disoriented. If it triggers the 100G patch, it's dead. The second phase will measure the damage and accuracy of the light machine guns as the experts advance to take out 5 targets in front of the building. For the final phase, the experts will move inside the building to shoot the last 2 targets with their pistols.
On 3, 2, 1, throw the grenade!
First fire, don't blow all your rounds.
He's in position. Oh, that was a good hit. That's dead center, chest.
Nice. Good job.
He's making good time.
There you go. Sounds like a double tap.
Done! Okay, that's 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Let's go check out the damage.
The 2 targets within 5 feet of the detonation point were killed instantly. The team reviews the target 10 feet away.
From primary blast injury, this 100G, that's lethal. This guy's dead.
The grenade damage is far less severe on the other side of the guard shack.
This is the target that was at 15 feet. Neither of these shock patches are tripped, and we're now starting to get outside the range for primary blast injury of that weapon.
But look where he delivered the round. Dead mid-face. This guy is dead.
Guys, for me, this is all about the initiative X factor. When you're able to take the initiative, that's a big advantage if you can catch guys by surprise. What was it like throwing the RGD-5?
Man, I'm telling you, 4 ounces of TNT, you just feel the power of it. I mean, look at him, he's still in shock.
Not anymore, you shot him in the face, okay? This is why we throw flashbangs in a room before we go in. You catch people by surprise, you get their heads down, you get them panicked.
Okay, so let's check out phase 2 of this assault. More of the RPK damage.
Unfortunately, our decomposing bodies here have been taken over with bees. But what can we see from here? They all have more than 1 round. Up front, this guy's got riddled through his neck, through his chest. The one behind him, I see at least 3 through his chest and 2 through his neck. So all of these are instant kills.
What was it like firing the RPK, Calvin?
It's lighter, so I could run with it fast, and it took me actually 4 to 5 seconds to reload. It's pretty fast.
السيطرة في RPK ومسدس على بناية مثل هذه.
He said there is nothing like the RPK to lay down the fire and then finish off who you didn't with the pistol. Now, when you're talking about the pistol, you're talking about phase 3. You have to muster a certain level of intensity when going up and taking a pistol and bringing it into a guy's face. That's up close and personal. That's what we call killer instinct, and that is one of the factors that will plug into this thing as well.
Exactly. I think that really speaks to the X factor of training, and that's a factor that we're going to have to look at in this particular matchup.
Well, you know, Saddam was the president of an oil-rich country. This was a real army. This wasn't a guerrilla movement. So he had training areas, and he was able to import quality weapons.
Obviously, it's very impressive. However, hold your judgment, because the version that Jonathan's using, it will be impressive too.
The light machine gun by the Khmer Rouge is the weapon of choice, and I'll show you.
Coming up, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge launch their counterattack. And later, the experts unleash their machine guns in a motorcade ambush. Saddam Hussein, Pol Pot, In a battle of the 20th century's most brutal dictators, who is deadliest?
Saddam created the Republican Guard as an elite force for his own protection. They were provided the best weapons, they lived better than everybody else, and were officered by people he trusted, which means relatives of Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein, the butcher of Baghdad, who killed nearly 2 million people during his 24-year rule, is battling Pol Pot, whose widespread political executions and policies of starvation filled more than 20,000 mass graves.
Under the leadership of Pol Pot, the Khmer Rouge created 150 prisons to torture and execute people. They would bury people alive. They would put plastic bag over a person's head and let the person die. They've killed 2 million people at the end. That is over a quarter of the population.
Saddam Hussein's arsenal of a grenade, light machine gun, and pistol has been tested in a 3-phase assault, simulating the urban warfare tactics used by the two warriors. Now, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge will launch its attack with weapons primarily supplied by Communist China, starting with the Chinese stick grenade, a descendant of a grenade the Germans used in World War II.
This grenade, gentlemen, has 6 ounces of explosive filler. That's 50% more than the Saddam grenade. And it has a sleeve on the end. Pol Pot would actually put knives, nails, barbed wire into the sleeve, giving it more of a killing effect.
The Khmer Rouge will continue the assault with their standard issue RPD light machine gun, a Soviet-built weapon that delivers death in 100-round bursts.
You can fire 650 rounds per minute from a drum that contains 100 rounds. It's slightly heavier than Saddam's machine gun, but you will have heavier casualties.
The Khmer Rouge will conclude the attack, clearing the building with its 9mm Tokarev TT-33 pistol, 8-round semi-automatic weapon that executed Cambodians by the thousands. To test the accuracy and damage potential of Pol Pot's arsenal in a 3-phase assault, Jonathan will try to take out all 11 targets under Calvin's time of 2 minutes, 5 seconds.
On 3, 2, 1, throw the grenade! Whoa! That was a larger explosion.
That's the sound I remember.
There we go. Love it, love it, love it.
Nice transition.
Oh,
That's good.
There's a hit. Oh, you see that?
There you go.
Look at him, he's just booking it, man. Nice! 2 minutes, 2 seconds. That's 3 seconds separating these guys. 100G shock patch is tripped. That's lethal. It's getting inside that pot, amplifying the pressure wave and increasing its duration.
The shrapnel here is really significant. Every area you see a frayed piece, that's something going into the hut.
The target 5 feet from the detonation point is also an instant kill. The team examines the target 10 feet out.
As far as primary blast injury is concerned, 100G shock patch is tripped. So from 10 feet out, it's lethal. This is the target that's 15 feet away from the explosion. No trip on the 100G shock patch. So as far as primary blast injury is concerned, nothing here. But our 38G shock patch is tripped. So this guy did get shaken up, but not lethal.
It's not an instant kill, but you can get pulmonary contusion, blood filling into your lungs just from the bruise. And obviously, ruptured eardrums, whirling sensation, vertigo.
As soon as his head is rocked, he is a sitting duck, Doc. And what's important is seizing that initiative, and that's the X factor we're looking at. And if you're looking at just the tiniest bit more of that disorientation in this moment, that's a bigger advantage. That's going to have to figure into the sim.
The Saddam Hussein grenade rolls like a baseball. You don't know where it's going to end up. Whereas with the stick grenade, aim it, throw it, it stays there. Look at the results.
But how did the RPD perform in the second phase?
Jonathan, great work. Multiple rounds in every single target. Some of these targets have a huge cavity. You've basically carved out an entire section of the body. That means your accuracy is on target and you're able to keep chunking away at the same tissue. Instant kill all around.
And you know what? These foam targets aren't biofidelic, okay? But we've never seen a machine gun cut them in half. And the fact that you ran it 3 seconds faster, nice job.
This weapon is superior compared to the Saddam Hussein weapon. 100 rounds compared to 40. While he's reloading, I'm killing.
What about the Tokarev?
Accurate, 8 rounds. Very simple weapon to use, very powerful.
إيران عندها أسلحة كثيرة متنوعة متطورة. 8 سنوات ولحقنا خسائر بالإيرانيين لأنه إحنا عندنا تدريب.
They fought a war with the Iranians. The Iranians had better weapons. The Iraqis had better training. That's what he believes was their edge.
The team has more tests for the light machine guns, but the grenades and sidearms are ready for judgment. First up, the grenades. Saddam's RGD-5 or Pol Pot's Chinese stick grenade. Which packs enough punch to give its warrior the edge?
I'm going to go with the Chinese stick grenade. I just think there's a little bit more blast, a little more concussive force, so that if I do open up after that attack, I have a guy who's a little disoriented, put in a bad position.
I agree with you, Mac. The only thing I don't like about the Chinese stick grenade is that it has that handle. Despite the fact that it's got 2 more ounces of high explosive in it, I think you'd be able to carry less of them. And so for that, I like the RGD-5.
The one thing that I realize the stick provides is lack of roll. When that thing falls, there's going to be a minimal amount of bounce, which we do see with the round ball.
I agree with Doc, just the functionality, it's not going to be rolling all over the place, and the explosive power.
Hey, you can even add a sleeve with nasty nails, and I've seen that type of trauma. It's horrendous. So if I got to compare the two, my edge would go to the stick grenade.
Edge, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. Saddam's Browning high power or Pol Pot's Tokarev? Whose pistol outgunned the other?
For me, this is all about magazine capacity. If I have more rounds with the Browning high power than I do with the Tokarev, I'm going to go with the Browning high power, period.
If I had to give one advantage to the Tokarev is I like its low profile. I think that would be something you could easily slip in your belt.
The reason it's low profile is it carries less rounds.
Fair enough.
You know, when in doubt, overload.
Edge, Saddam Hussein and the Republican Guard. Coming up, the light machine gun duel continues its carnage. And later, Saddam Hussein's Republican Guard and Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge finally go head-to-head to find out which dictatorship is deadliest. Two of history's most brutal dictators ruled at the end of the 20th century, but over 4,000 miles apart. If they actually squared off in battle, who would win? Pol Pot, a former schoolteacher turned Cambodian rebel who led the deadliest revolution in Asian history, or Saddam Hussein, who struck terror in the Iraqi people by brutally killing an average of 200 every day during his quarter-century rule.
Saddam used torture against his own people. Think of the most brutal torture methods there are. Saddam Hussein employed all of them. Initially, they used electricity. They also would pull out the fingernails, the chemical bath. That's how it started out, and it got worse and worse.
Our first test examined both warriors' light machine guns attacking an enemy-occupied building. But the Republican Guard and Khmer Rouge also used these weapons to exterminate political opponents.
Okay, guys, we know that Pol Pot and Saddam used these light machine guns to coordinate ambushes on threats to their regime.
The scenario: a moving car is stopped by an obstacle. Each expert will fire 80 rounds to see how quickly and accurately they can first take out the driver and then advance to exterminate the target in the back seat.
Jonathan, you'll be up first with Pol Pot's RPD. Let's get the car moving. 3, 2, 1, ambush!
Make sure he's down. That's effective fire right there.
There you go.
Nice, nice. Now it's time to move.
Okay, he's moving.
Keep moving. Smooth burst, smooth burst. There you go, smooth as fast. There you go. Smooth as fast. Oh, that's it. There you go.
Oh, yeah. time? 46 seconds, Jonathan.
It took that long?
I mean, you've completely riddled the body. It's the classic best way to kill somebody is shooting them from the side. And with just one of these rounds, you would be able to do that. All right, what we're seeing here, I mean, this body looks like it's ice cream and the bullets were the scooper and it just scooped out his chest and his belly and is throwing it all around. It just explodes. This is intimidating. If you walk alongside this and see your leader has his chest on the floor, caved out, that's an intimidation factor that we gotta factor into the sim.
Even though the Khmer Rouge's machine gun is heavier than Saddam's, when you're firing bursts, you don't feel the weight. This is definitely a weapon you don't want to mess with.
When the war in Cambodia happened, I was just a boy. There was a time I've heard the exact same sound when I got there. I saw bloods and guts just like this. I had a couple of Khmer Rouge soldiers that put similar guns to my head. They were about 12 or 13 years old.
When you have somebody who's just hitting puberty and then you give them a weapon like this, they're gonna feel invincible. And then you add the post-traumatic stress of doing what they did at that age. All of these things have to factor in for psychological health in the sim.
Can Calvin match the accuracy of Pol Pot's RPD with Saddam's RPK in less than 46 seconds?
Let's get the car moving. On 3, 2, 1, take him out.
There you go, nice.
Oh, cooling that car up. Oh.
Wow.
Moving in now.
Change your magazine?
I didn't see it. Yeah, that was silly. Yeah.
Allahu Akbar!
Time! 59 seconds! Nice work. I think that magazine change cost you a little bit.
Wow. Tore the head off. We know that this is not human tissue, but if you get that many rounds right into the neck, that is gonna decapitate somebody. Okay, guys, let's take a look at the primary target.
Hey.
Okay, first and foremost, there's a monstrous entry wound. Yeah. This thing is just tearing its way through the body. To be able to actually see this type of carnage that both of these weapons caused have to be factored in as X factors with regards to intimidation.
Calvin, I saw you do a magazine change on the go. What was going on there?
I already know. I damaged them, and I'm just on my way to make it finish.
I mean, I've carried this weapon. I've used this weapon. It is a little bit heavy compared to an assault rifle, but this is laying down a tremendous volume of fire.
هذا النوع من العمليات لأنه العمليات اللي يطلع للجيش خاص لاختراق الدرع.
So they train on these kinds of operations, and a lot of the cars that they would be going against are armored. So they would be trying to go for what they believe to be the weakest part, and that would be the window.
So again, training.
The RPK and RPD both proved their accuracy and devastating damage. So which finer details of each machine gun's functionality will give its warrior the edge?
Listen, if you don't get this RPK magazine in perfectly, you're going to be dancing around a little bit. So if you come off a little bit of an angle, you come in a little bit here, you're going to have some issues. When you're talking about a 5-man unit against a 5-man unit, where any little advantage is going to make a gigantic difference on the battlefield, me not having to change my magazine in that moment, that's where Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge are going to get a significant advantage.
You know, the RPK is lighter and it may decrease fatigue. So from a doctor's standpoint, I like the RPK.
I like the fact that it's lighter. I don't like the fact that you've got to reload it. My edge, Pol Pot's RPD.
For long-range weapons, edge, Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. Coming up, the combat goes hand-to-hand as experts strike with close-quarter blades. Saddam Hussein and his Republican Guard, or Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge, who will be crowned the deadliest warrior. Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi dictator whose Republican Guard crushed Kurdish and Shia rebellions in the 1990s, versus Pol Pot, the communist tyrant whose Khmer Rouge guerrillas overran the Cambodian military before enslaving millions in the 1970s. Two sadistic rulers known for killing their own people now face off to kill each other. When the fighting got up close and personal, both sides unsheathed their bladed weapons. Saddam's Republican Guard carried the combat knife, a powerful killing device wielded by hand or at the end of a gun.
في القادسية في معارك مع إيران عندما تأتي موجات بشرية معادية العدو في جنبي أطعنا أو أحيانا فوقي أطعنا يفقد قوة يموت أو بعدين قسم بهم نلقاهم في نفس أخير نأخذهم أسرى.
Pol Pot slashes back with a blade modeled after the machete, the cane knife, a farming tool turned executioner's weapon.
This cane knife has a blade of 12 to 24 inches in length, and it's 3 millimeters thick. You can use this blade to cut the jungle undergrowth in one moment, and the next moment behead a Cambodian soldier.
Let's test it out. Now, we've seen how you've used other weapons in your arsenal to actually take a building. Now you're inside that building going after your primary target.
To assess these blades' speed and penetration damage, each expert will kick open the door and attack a guard, represented by a section of bovine torso, mimicking human tissue and bone. They then must react to a second beef target, closing in on a zip line.
To increase the accuracy of our simulator, I'll be strapping this three-dimensional accelerometer to the blade to get impact speed, and the doc will be assessing the damage. On 3, 2, 1, boot the door! Come on!
That'll work.
2 targets, 2 instant kills.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 clean strikes. All those strikes, without even me looking at each strike individually, is a kill.
You got a speed of about 40 miles per hour at impact, okay? And that's actually quite fast for the other weapons that we've seen on this show.
If you can accurately deliver that blade into a human body, which is not nearly as thick, I'm telling you, you're going to drop that guy quickly, which allows you to move on and take on that second target.
Jonathan is up next with the Khmer Rouge's cane knife.
On 3, 2, 1, boot it! Oh, let's check this out, guys. They got 45 miles per hour off the speed of this weapon, okay?
This was your second strike. You get past soft tissue muscle here, and then right here you get stuck at the fascia and bone.
Jonathan, I think what happened was you got caught between 2 different targets, and then you decided to come back to this, and if you don't have a big commitment and a great load behind it, you get that draw cut, and it's not nearly as clean.
It's exactly what we're seeing, Mac. Let's go look at the second target. You're going through soft tissue, muscle, belly of the muscle, but it does not penetrate past that. It's a classic difference between a thrusting and a slashing weapon. You can kill with a slash, but you gotta be committed in order to get into that chest cavity. And if you don't, a lot of blood, a lot of pain, but not an instant kill.
When you're talking about the person who commits to the target, you're talking about the Khmer Rouge here. There's no hesitation for them. You know, you talk about young soldiers. They grew up with this stuff. This is the extended arm for them. So every time when they use it, they commit it.
What I think, honestly, you have a longer blade than me, but it's too slow. You got to swing a lot with it.
This is used in Iraq by the farmers. It's a farm tool. It's not a weapon. This is a weapon.
So which blade gets the edge?
Listen, there's a lot more flexibility with regards to the combat knife as a battlefield tool. When you're talking about the cane knife, you do need some room to operate with that weapon. If you're in a tight, closed, confined space, it's going to be much harder to load up that big swing and deliver that great result. The edge, for me, goes to the Republican Guard's combat knife.
For close-range weapons, edge Saddam Hussein and his Republican Guard. The arsenals have been tested, and the results are neck and neck. Up next, the climactic final battle, Saddam Hussein, the butcher of Baghdad, whose atrocities included chemical warfare, versus Pol Pot, the Cambodian warlord who starved and slaughtered a quarter of his country's citizens. Who is deadliest?
When we look at dominance, it's pretty much a wash. The way that they employed their weapons dominated the battle space when they were on it. We did rate them as Saddam a 78 versus Pol Pot 75.
Saddam Hussein and his mighty Iraqi Republican Guard army, Cambodia's Pol Pot and his ruthless Khmer Rouge rebels. Combined, their Kurdish and Cambodian genocides took an estimated 5 million lives. But who would win a head-to-head battle between two of the most savage mass murderers of the 20th century? Our team has tested and analyzed the weapons these two warriors will bring to the final battle. In explosives, the Republican Guard's RGD-5 grenade was overpowered by the Khmer Rouge's stick grenade. In close-range weapons, the Khmer Rouge's cane knife was cut down by the Republican Guard's combat knife. In medium-range weapons, the Khmer Rouge's Tokarev TT-33 was outdueled by the Republican Guard's Browning high-power pistol. In long-range weapons, the Republican Guard's RPK was gunned down by the Khmer Rouge's RPD light machine gun. All the weapons data has been turned over to Robert Daly and plugged into the digital combat engine. His team of engineers has completed their historical research on more than 100 X factors.
We evaluate these intangibles like audacity, battlefield experience, logistics, and our historians quantify it into a numeric value of 1 to 100.
For me, it's all about the X factor of training in this particular matchup because Saddam Hussein and the Republican Guard had oil money. And if you got oil money, you can have people, buildings, and infrastructure to train them. That makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, Jeff, training, we ended up rating Saddam at a 70 versus Pol Pot at a 53.
With regards to psychological health, both of these guys have DSM-4 antisocial behavior classification added with paranoid traits.
Both these guys are completely insane. Saddam Hussein's psychological health, we rated it as 46 versus Pol Pot's 27. This is really due to the fact that Pol Pot, he's doing something that I've never seen happen in human history before. He's trying to recreate history in his own image, killing millions of people to do this.
Robert, let's talk about battlefield effectiveness. You need to be able to initiate your attack, and you have to have killer instinct to see it all the way through until you own that battle.
On the initiative side, Pol Pot had a slight advantage at an 83 versus Saddam's 74. On the last X factor, we're talking about killer instinct. And this is a tough one, but Pol Pot had the advantage because his troops would go in and make that final kill because that's what they were taught to do at such a young age. And we gave Pol Pot's troops an 89 versus Saddam's 86.
Okay, Rob, you've got the weapons data. We've assigned values to all the X factors. Let's run the sim.
The digital combat engine will run 5,000 battles between Saddam Hussein and 4 Republican Guard soldiers versus Pol Pot and 4 Khmer Rouge guerrillas.
Saddam ended up winning this matchup with 2,828 victories versus Pol Pot with only 2,172 victories.
In the head-to-head weapons comparison, Saddam Hussein's RPK light machine gun, Browning high-power pistol, and combat knife proved more effective. But it was his overwhelming advantage in the X factor of training that sealed the victory.
Saddam Hussein and his Republican Guard are really an organization that is set up to put down rebels. And when you look at Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge, they are rebels. So that's why Saddam ended up winning.
They're crazy people, and I hate giving crazy people attention. But sometimes you need to know who the crazy people are so you can stop them before they start causing this level of trouble.
Next Wednesday, two larger-than-life legends, two legendary machine guns in the ultimate weapons showdown.
Crank 'em out!
As Rough Rider Teddy Roosevelt battles the devil of the desert, Lawrence of Arabia.
I'm excited to see how this thing unfolds.
Don't miss an all-new Deadliest Warrior at a special time next Wednesday at 9 on Spike.